Going back to the start of race 1, James Houghton started third and really put the pressure on Andy Smedgaard down into turn 1 and up through the S's. That was what allowed the lead to build up initially before we saw a 3-car breakaway, before James Houghton found himself with a technical issue. So let's see what happens on this race start with Eric Catil now starting 4th. I think he's going to be aggressive on this race start and try and grab some track position.
I think if Eric Catil can get up to the 3-car, I think his racecraft is going to be fun to watch. I don't know that his car is quite the strength that it needs to be to outrun that 3-car in a dead race, but if he gets ahead of him, I think he can play defense pretty darn well, Arjuna. But again, that race start, those rules that allow you to just go on green, the racetrack is so wide here. Think back to Gingerman Raceway a couple of weeks ago. 3-car widths, we've got 60 feet to play with here. It makes this pretty fun.
And we saw some drivers doing well to time the green. So let's see how they all get ready to go, with Eric Magnussen hoping to leave this weekend with a championship lead, but fearing Andy Smedgaard's late championship offense as we head to the end of the season.
Eric Catil had lost the championship lead after race 1. He starts 4th for race 2. He's got to chase down rivals Eric Magnussen and Andy Smedgaard. 3.5 miles around each lap. And 15 minutes, green flag. We're underway at Watkins Glen. Looked tentative for a moment because the front is so orderly compared to everybody behind. 3 wide into turn 1.
A little bit messy, as I think a couple of drivers further back, not quite sure when the green flag was pulled, and so kind of shuffling out of formation. And side by side as we head up through the S's, Andy Smedgaard using that start to be able to challenge Eric Magnussen. Catil putting the pressure on Hillo as they crest the hill.
Yeah, great racing here up through the S's. And Smedgaard, this is critical for him. He can't back out. He's got to commit in a big way here at the bus stop. Is Andy going to get the lead away from the 3-car? He's going to turn in side by side. He cannot outmuscle the 3 of Magnussen, but Eibach slips a little bit, and Andy's back to charge to the inside into the carousel.
He saw the up and under opportunity, but once again, Eric Magnussen able to close the door. This is what happened on a couple of occasions at the end of race number 1. But now he's staring down, defending like this for 15 straight minutes. Smedgaard to the outside, down in towards the boot. Same thing happening as well for 3rd and 4th positions. Catil's been shuffled back slightly. Great start from Matt Waldbaum, who's trying to fight up to 3rd now on the inside, up towards the toe of the boot, as Andy Smedgaard goes for the lead.
Down at the toe of the boot, side by side for the top spot, as Waldbaum carves his spot out in 3rd place. He's a race winner here in GLTC at the Glen, and he can sniff it, he can smell it. His team boss up the road in that black and white Toyota 86, but he wasn't able to get the job done here, Arjuna. That doesn't mean he's given it up.
No, those ASM cars looking good once again this weekend as Andy pushes a bit wide. Lose a bit of ground to Eric Magnussen as they shuffle up towards the tricky turn 9. Eric Catil back up into 4th, so he was able to displace Hillo as Waldbaum slipped through as well. Matthew Ibrahim's had a decent start. He's up now into 7th position as we head to turn 10 and get ready to close lap number 1.
Wow, that was an exciting first lap, wasn't it? We had lots of battling. Mason Bursack is alongside Jake Rawson. Some great fighting through the field as we make our way through the penultimate corner, and now Catil all over the back of Matt Waldbaum in that number 90, the gray and blue car entering turn 1.
Can see the gap between the top 2. I think Matt Waldbaum a little bit more looking in the rearview mirror right now as they sweep through turn 1 once again. A couple of cars a little bit wide, not necessarily ideal. Bounce over that curb can stall some of the momentum out compared to someone who's on the regular racing track. Eric Catil knows that the next 2 rounds of the championship are going to suit his car, and so he is very much just looking to minimize the points deficit to Eric Magnussen at the end of this weekend. Can he make the move up into the inner loop?
Side by side into the inner loop for Catil, and he's going to just try to muscle it away. Waldbaum going to try to hang on the outside, and they're still side by side into the carousel now. Hillo and Ibrahim also joining the fray in the 350Z and the BMW. Catil trying to hang on the quarter panel of the S2000.
Some great racing, but you know what looks good is usually slow on the racetrack, allowing the top 2 to continue their breakaways down into the boot on lap number 2. Waldbaum, the outside, rolls the speed through and now has the inside up to the toe. Catil's going to be lucky here if he can slot back into line and avoid losing out to Hillo, who's fighting with Ibrahim 2 by 2. step up the hill.
What a great battle between these two drivers. They have so much respect for each other, but Catil edges ahead. And Ibrahim going the long way around of Hilo in the 350Z. Donald Louie in the white BRZ doing him a strong race here, as well as Blake Korth in the 777, and C. Miata also in the fray.
And then a gap to those behind. So this battle pack is really allowing itself to develop amongst itself. Top two now about 4 seconds clear as we'll close lap 2. Oh, Hilo a little bit wide out of turn 9. Didn't lose much ground, but he's lost out to Matthew Ibrahim into turn 10.
Yeah, single file now, and that will let all these drivers sort of lock in and focus ahead on their individual battles. Now you got to pick them off one at a time. There's Blake Korth in the 777. New track record by Hoomst. Your leader, Eric Magnussen, just went the fastest a GLTC car has ever gone. 206.713 around Watkins Glen International.
Pulls clear of second place as well, so that was a very tidy lap thrown together by Magnussen. But remember, he struggled at the end of race 1. Smedgar got closer and closer, and it did look as though he was going to be able to make the move.
I do wonder if Andy thinks that Magnussen might fall back into his clutches a little later and is just sort of biding his time, saving some tire. Not necessarily from a wear perspective, these races are too short for that, but from a heat perspective. That's what the 3 car is going to have a disadvantage in is, yes, you have a little more tire, but you're weighing much more than Andy. So over the course of this 15 minutes, you're going to heat your tires up a lot more, and you're going to lose that performance in heat degradation, and that could close this battle back up.
Just heard James Houghton rolling behind us. The car sounds great, but whatever happened in that first race, the technical issue.
So here's why James Houghton's hanging out back here. He's a man of the format. He knows exactly how to get himself back to the front.
He's trying to do a fast lap.
He does not need to finish this race well. He doesn't care about the weekend points. His goal is to win a race. And all he has to do is run a fast lap in this one because our next race is gridded by lap time. That's James Houghton big braining this right now.
So did you find out what the issue on the car was?
I haven't heard from Houghton exactly what that problem was, but I'll bet you it was something simple. The car's been shelved for a little while, so, you know, give it the old Control-Alt-Delete.
Yes, that's good to hear. And again, I love to someone who knows the format and plays to the rules that they're given. Side by side, slightly further behind as Morrison under pressure here, I think, up to the inside of turn 9.
It's Mason Bursack that he's got in his clutches at the moment, the red BMW, new to GLTC competition here this year, and Morrison got the spot, move him to 9th place. Brandon Ganem in the LFX RX-7 back there. It's a great sounding car. And there's Kevin Zhu. How about this story? A driver that wasn't even planning on being here this weekend, but due to the misfortune of some of his fellow competitors, he has elected to make the drive from the Massachusetts area and show up here this weekend. Now, why is Waldbaum back here is the question. Is Donald Louie's got a problem, and Waldbaum's dropping down the order.
There's a couple of cars that have had some issues recently. Matt Waldbaum seemingly back up to speed in the S2000, so that's a good sign. But I wonder if there's also something to be said about, we talked about the tires. Are these drivers running too close to one another and maybe overheating in the heat of the day that we have right now? They're likely to be quite aggressive on their aero and lack of cooling configs, as we saw from some of the Honda fits. That's maybe something to keep in mind.
There's the 350Z of Michael Hilo, P5. As Morrison now sort of looking like he's going to be, actually he just got by the 777 as well. So Joel Morrison on a charge forward in that lime green and black S2000. And that's not what it seems either. Honda Odyssey J35 V6 under the nose of that car.
He was definitely out of position, I think, though, given the pace he had shown in race 1 before dropping back. So clawing his way back into contention. Slightly different strategy to what James Houghton's doing, where he's going to reinsert himself into the front courtesy of that fast lap. Looks one way, then the other. It's hard to make a move into turn 8, but set something up to turn 9.
Yeah, a little bit of defensive driving there from Hilo, fading to the left. And Morrison going to run the wider line, try to arc in here and build some speed for corner exit. V8 350Z, V6 S2000, both cars that They're actually each have 2 more cylinders than they would have been sold with.
Well, they're not running the regular racing lines right now by any means. They are doing interesting things. Hilo trying to defend. He's costing himself some exit momentum on occasion. In stark contrast, Morrison was just trying to sweep a bit wider, compromising his entry to try and find a bit more exit speed. Watch down here into the 90. How aggressive are they in sweeping out wide? Morrison wants no part of that curb, and I'm not surprised that some of these drivers are avoiding the risk that we've talked about this weekend.
Yeah, the rumble strips in the curbing here are so violent that you have to, use your car as a non-renewable resource. You might have parts available to fix it, but it's just sometimes not worth the risk. If you need the speed in qualifying, ooh, this is dicey between Hilo and Morrison, challenging each other into the inner loop. This is good racing between these two.
Deep from Morrison through the corner, slid through, has allowed Hilo the chance to get to the outside, but now vulnerable as Korth, Bursack start to close, drop down into the boot on the 5th lap of this race. This is about where we saw Magnussen start to drop back in race 1, but he's got about 3.5 seconds up front right now. We'll keep an eye on the lead as this great fight through the field from Morrison sees him now step into the top 5.
In the background, there's Mason Bursack having a look at Blake Korth into the toe of the boot, running the wider line. There's a couple different ways you can drive that corner. There's grip available in a couple different places. You can either sort of late apex it, or you can dive in and charge the entry, because the gravity assist will slow you down and turn you around the other direction. So fun corners, both the carousel and the toe of the boot are sort of like that. But you can also fall out of the groove, and it's like coming off the tracks of a roller coaster. You just go for a wild ride if you miss it.
There's a couple of places here where if you go a little bit wide, it can be an interesting experience. Our drivers, for the most part, outside of our test day, have had a good run of things, although is that someone stopped in the shortcut?
Yeah, it's the 214.
Gatos.
Is that the borrowed car too? I think it might be. That's right, that's Chris Gatos. So not the borrowed car, but he stopped in that shortcut area here. But no mind to Eric Magnussen, who is just lights out at the moment. And here's the thing to consider as well. In GRIDLIFE Touring Cup, drivers get extra percent weight as rewards weight, but it only applies after the weekend. Emag's been a little bit quicker than Catil since Catil took on all that weight post-Road Atlanta. Going into Lime Rock, and swing advantage back to Catil, and Emag will have to be carrying an extra at least 2% should he go on to win this race, maybe even more. So it could drag Catil right back into this conversation, even though Magnussen is now currently leading the championship points.
But you don't lose success weight.
No.
So Catil's not going to shed any of the weight that he's earned this season. So it's one of the factors that makes things interesting. The weight can be placed in a position that you choose, so the drivers will be trying to balance out the car as best as they can. Eric Catil, I think, for a front-wheel drive car, it's remarkable to see just how active it is at the rear. Proper front-wheel drive car is often loose and dancey at the rear because it's trying to point itself in the right direction to where you want the car to go. And for the most part, Eric's shown us exactly what that car is capable of, and Lime Rock and Laguna are going to be great fits for it.
Catil feeling some pressure. Ibrahim's breathing down his neck. I saw Matthew in the turn 14 lounge grabbing lunch, and it was confirmed his first podium in GLTC. He's hunting for a second one right now, chasing the 2020 Eibach GLTC champion. And coming into this weekend, Catil was still leading the championship. So this is a strong showing by Ibrahim, who has experience in TC America running touring cars. And the Garagistic E36 is closing.
We know that Eric Catil's working on a Accord. The intention for that, I think, is to step up into GT with that, but this is still a very, very capable GLTC car. A little bit of a moment down there at turn 1 as he pushes out wide, but seemingly okay, not allowing Ibrahim the opportunity to close as they climb the hill for what should be the final time.
Yeah, white flag is out. This will be the last lap around Watkins Glen. This time we didn't get the face-off between these two that we thought we would after the first race. Eric Magnussen in that 3 car out front and comfortably. And Smedegaard gonna potentially pick up a second place. So the battle shifts to third because Ibrahim has a look at Kittil into the inner loop.
Maybe cost himself there a chance to fight in through the outer loop. A bit of a sweep on the curb that sees the rear end dance around for Ibrahim, closing in on Eric Kittil. Gets off the corner great as they enter the boot for one final time.
You know what, this isn't quite the close quarters racing that we saw at Gingerman Raceway because of the confines of that facility, but I'll bet you it feels like you are absolutely flying around here with all this open track, the clean green racing. I bet you just feel like you're going Mach 3 through that inner loop, jumping the curbs. I bet you Kittil's having fun. I know he's not winning where I know he'd be happier, but this battle against Ibrahim on this last lap, this is a blast.
And importantly for him, Eric Magnussen has shown some cracks this weekend. It's not been all his own way. So Kittil holding his own for third, minimizing the points deficit to our new championship leader up front.
And I hear that Ibrahim also has the fastest lap of the race. So that would put him on pole for race 3. But Eric Magnussen in the number 3 is working his way through the last few corners here at Watkins Glen. Coming back to the checkers, Emag 2 for 2 at Watkins Glen. Andy Smedegaard a distant second place.
Very different race compared to race 1. And now an opportunity for these drivers to go off, debrief, and figure out what they want to do tomorrow.
Yeah, lots of learning to do, I'm sure, looking at the data. They've got plenty of time to go through the data points, but unfortunate for Matt Waldbaum, he had such a strong start to the race and ended up dropping down the order all the way to P10. I think it was just a singular mistake. I heard some skidding, didn't see where or what, but what a race. So Ibrahim should be on pole for tomorrow. It's going to shake things up a little bit, having a newer driver out at the pointy end. As the rest of the field comes back around, still drivers finishing up their race, so we won't jump to the results quite yet. But
so clearly Magnussen, as much as he was fast at the front, not the fastest driver on track.
Well, that's why I'm saying I think that this field is way closer than meets the eye. I think a lot of this is the chaos of that first half a lap and the way people qualified. If they didn't get the qualifying run they're hoping.
I'm not sure if that information you were given is correct. Oh. Eric Magnussen showing as a 2:06.7. Matthew Ibrahim showing as a 2:08.1
okay.
as the fastest lap. Does seem to be, though, that Ibrahim will start in front of Kittil. Kittil's going to drop behind Morrison, excuse me.
Oh, I didn't see, I was going to see what lap Emag ran that 2:06 on, but it might have been pretty early on. But either way, what a race. Let's look at the results and go through the 40-car field. Top of the order. Again, Emag in that number 3 over Andy Smedegaard and Eric Kittil on the podium. So moving forward, collecting points and banking good finishes for the rest of the weekend. That could be critical because race 4, when we do our random field inversion, that could really mix things up, and solid top 5 results are going to be a big help. Ibrahim, Joel Morrison, rest of your top 5. Then Jake Rawson in only his 3rd or 4th GLTC event, 11th place. Daniel Geraldo for Toyo. Brennan Ganem, Lee Wombolt started deep in the field, up to 14th. Great drive there. Ayrton Grimm, his best finish of the weekend, 15th so far. Brian Hetty and Julio Crispin, and then down the order here, Brian Hendricks, Brian Tyson in that Ford Focus ST. Cool car to have one of those things out. Ryan Christoph also recovering from the mechanical issue he had. Now, what about James Houghton? That's the other question.
2:08.152. So he wasn't the fastest, so he won't start from pole position, but does look as though he's going to slot into the top 4, I think, for tomorrow's first race of the day in GLTC action.
All right, so that'll be fun to throw him back into the mix, but let's take a look at the highlights from Eibach GLTC Race 2. There was plenty of them. That first lap had me on edge. And at the start, again, it was 3 wide right at the launch. Blake Korth stranding Mason Bursack in the middle of the field, with Jake Rawson on the outside. And 4 wide deeper in the pack, but again, everyone behaving on the run to the inner loop. It was Emag, then Andy Smedegaard, and then this was the battle between Matt Walbaum and Eric Catil, leaving each other plenty of racing room. This is exactly what we expect out of Eibach GLTC. Leave your buddy room, and you're going to have the best race of your life.
Catil didn't make this move work, but we did see someone make a pass into the bus stop slightly later on, so maybe a bit of a preview of what to expect. First couple of laps, Smedegaard put the pressure onto Eric Magnussen, but as time went by, Magnussen just pulled clear of those hunting him down, all as the likes of Matthew Ibrahim in that blue BMW picked his way up through the field. So Eric Catil comes home in 3rd place, but it was all behind this driver, the number 3 of Eric Magnussen, the sort of Dale Earnhardt-esque livery. Those use BMW colors, though, so he's made it his own. He wins Eibach GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race number 2.